there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today, a brand new guest, a brand new rock star to the program. He's the Director of Distributor Services at Promo EQP, Jeremy Chacon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for setting up an introduction that I'm going to fail to meet.
No, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun. Obviously, we're doing this on a piece of content, but you're getting ready to introduce a new piece of content that I'm excited to hear about. It's called Got Your Back. Someone at Promo Corner actually told me about it, and I was excited to hear about it. So for the folks who have yet to see it or hear about it, tell us about Got Your Back and why you've created it.
You know, and a lot of this, one, I think that there are two absolute truths that exist inside of our market. And to me, those absolute truths were reiterated based off of the challenges we ran into last year, right?
Yeah.
Absolute truth number one is that at the end of the day, the distributor themselves are their own competitive advantage.
Okay.
What it is they are, who they are to their buyers, the relationships, the work that they do, the connections, the relationships, there is nothing a service entity or anybody else can come in to offer to make that distributor better at what they are inherently best at doing for themselves.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And if that is truth number one, then truth number two to our industry is that there is no better partner to a distributor's business than a supplier relationship.
Yeah.
And that right there, that to me is, if we're looking at a recipe, and I've seen some of your stuff and you've talked about it, right? Where distributors, the amazing thing distributors did was change buyers' perceptions in a large part about what our industry is. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the connection, the relationship. But we're inherently in a situation where we can't we can't go it entirely alone. We have to rely on our partners. And that supplier is the single most significant beneficial partner that a distributor has to their model. Right.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do was was ultimately, I think that there's a lot of people out there that unfortunately in our industry, I don't want to say that they peddle snake oil, but a lot of people have snake oil on the shelves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's let's build a message based off of those two absolute truths. The distributor's their own competitive advantage, and here are the partners, here are the suppliers who have your back.
I see
right?
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, look, sometimes it means we have a harder conversation. Sometimes it means highlighting what it is that these guys and the supplier side are doing, but it's with the idea and the focus of building and creating greater information for the distributor so that they know who it is that they can trust and rely on to run their business through.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I always say that as a distributor, I'm in the business of making promises for other people. And I need to do business with people who keep their promises, right? So
I joke around that it's like because I'll be entirely candid. I have never been a distributor in the market.
Okay.
My introduction was through another organization where I had the chance to work with distributors.
Sure.
And to me, the best thing I can put out there and offer as far as any of my information is that in the course of the last almost 15 years, I have probably talked to thousands of distributors.
Sure.
And there was one thing, I couldn't be a distributor. I couldn't. I mean, I think distributors every single one of you guys need to put onto your resume that you specialize in pulling a rabbit out of a hat with a special note that it isn't your rabbit and it isn't your hat. And yet somehow you do it. And it's like, I've joked around that it's like, if I was a distributor, I'm telling you right now, on the autopsy table, they would determine my cause of death based off of all of the ulcer holes was like a 1950 style mob hit.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't do what you guys do. And yet that to me is where it's like, I'm going to come at it from the perspective of respect to what it is that you guys do, because I think what you do is remarkable. In an age, in an era where there is so much push to eliminate accountability from a person's plate, the distributor is the one that runs in screaming, I'll be accountable for this.
Right.
I have no control on it. I can't effectively do anything about it, but I'm going to take the accountability. And to me, but that's also why that's why, if you want to talk about it, that's why I don't think the distributor and I don't think this industry could ever be consumed by an outside source. is because of what the distributor is to their buyer. And at the end of the day, the best I can do is something that ultimately pays respect to that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, it's so if you're getting ready to roll out a new piece of content, I wanted to get to know you a little bit. So, a question for you is, who are some people that inspire you to be better, and how do they do that?
Okay, so when I first came into the industry, yeah, I was given a project, right? I was given a project because the organization was sunsetting an old piece of research, right? And transitioning everybody over to the new current existing platform. And so my job was, and it was the greatest job because it gave me a chance to really learn about distributors, how distributors do their business, how they search, how they research, gain information.
Sure.
And I was also, I had the opportunity to talk to, some of the established guys that are out there. And I had talked with this one distributor, and back in the day, they used to have the show in Philadelphia.
Okay. Yep.
Right. And that was the first official trade show that I ever went to, was the Philadelphia show.
Okay.
And this distributor came up and he looks over and he says, where's Jeremy Chacon? And I turned around and I was like, okay, well, this is the first person asking for me. And he said that, and he was like, okay, I've gone through with you guys on the old register books. Remember the old big 4
Sure
volume?
do. Yeah.
I did the microfiche.
Okay.
Right. I did the register on CD, the register on DVD, and now you're telling me that this is the last one that I have to do. So if this is the last one I have to do, I'll do it, but you're going to teach me how to do it. And I'm not promising you that I'm going to be easy at learning this, but I promise you that I'll keep working at it. That gentleman's name was Andy Daspin. Okay. And he was absolutely true to his word. He wasn't great at learning it, but he never stopped to learn it.
That's good.
And I worked with Andy regularly to bring him up to speed. Now, we had a project that we were going to have for going out and meeting distributors to learn firsthand. And the first person I thought about was Andy, right? I can reach out to Andy, and me and a team, we can learn from Andy. And he was really hesitant about it, but he ended up agreeing to have us come out. And he was like, well, my office is my home. And I was like, listen, I want to learn how distributors do this. I want to learn how a distributor is engaged. You're the one that just comes to mind that I could talk to. And a day or so later, I got a call from his wife, Maureen. And Maureen had told me that the reason Andy was hesitant was because Andy was going through chemo treatment.
Okay.
But he was willing to do it because, in his feelings, it was that if I learned, I could help other distributors off of his experience.
Yeah.
And I told Maureen, listen, I don't want to affect what's going on. I just want to, you guys rest, you guys be easy. We'll figure out another way. And Andy himself gave me a call a couple of days later, and he said he knew Maureen had reached out, and his big thing was that he had built something he was proud of.
Right.
He had built something that this was something he felt he could hand off, that could take care of his family even after he had passed.
Right.
And the only thing he asked of me was that I would just stay available if anybody needed help from that. He had done the rest. And Andy passed away a couple of months later. Sure. But the thing was that what it hit me with was that this is what's remarkable about this industry. The fact that you have the ability to build something of your own, that it's about relationships, it's about connections, that if we're going to fight for anybody in this market, we should be fighting for Andy. We should be fighting for Maureen. We should be fighting for distributors that are out there every day building the nature of their business off of a relationship, trust, and a connection. And that right there is, to me, that helped from a very, very early point. I mean, I first came into the industry and I was introduced to Andy, and that has forever been the thing that has made me want to do what it is that I do in working with distributors.
Yeah, that's super powerful, Jeremy. I appreciate you being willing to share that. Yeah, I think that the entrepreneurial nature of our industry is one of the things that really does make it cool. I think it does build in that accountability you mentioned earlier, but it also it allows people to create a legacy. And certainly it sounds like that's the case for Andy. So I appreciate you sharing that. So what are some things that you have struggled with or have in the past struggled with? And how have you overcome them, or have you?
I think anytime you identify a struggle, it's a perpetual, isn't
Right.
it?
Yeah.
It's not you don't overcome it today and move on with,
Yeah.
light as a feather tomorrow.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
To me, I think the greatest struggle I end up having is the idea of acknowledging what is success is what it isn't what's built in other people's eyes.
Yeah. I agree with
Right.
that. Yeah.
Your success is in a lot of ways built off of what you see as being success for yourself.
Yeah.
And man, and this has been the struggle for me at times over the course of everything, having the courage to hold to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Because
Yeah.
it's easy to get pulled off of track to try and achieve success that is defined by somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I
and
agree.
that to me is the perpetual struggle, is figuring out being successful on the terms that connect and make the most amount of sense for myself.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair.
And I think, we have an industry of that. Again, it goes back to, it's what I learned from Andy. I mean, we need to know who we are, because what we are is genuinely remarkable. Right? We're an industry that, by and large, distributors in our industry don't necessarily have business to business meetings as much as I ran into my buyer at the frozen food section of the grocery store. We are so entirely connected to our communities. We have an industry where 80% of our distributors' existing business operates within 25 to 50 miles of their office door.
Yeah.
That means that we are connected to our communities. And when we battle to try and be something we're not, or take advice to be successful in ways that aren't true to ourselves, we're not happy in what it is that we do. And we're setting ourselves up for more failure than success.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, Jeremy. I think one of the things that I think many people it's not that they're trying to be inauthentic, it's that they haven't taken the time to define what success really is for them. People just haven't taken that time to do it. And I think when you do, sort of to your point, it becomes sort of freeing, because you can say, oh, well, everybody seems to care about that, but I don't really give a shit about that at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and it's okay. Silver linings of 2020. That should be an ongoing series, right? Silver linings of 2020. Nobody should ever be worried about working out of their house ever again, because now we don't have home-based offices. We work remote, right? We need to embrace who we are, because we actually are. Look, we are an intimate industry that, quite honestly, whose business model isn't shaped like a pyramid. Right. There's nobody telling me I need to bring in 20 new distributors that are going to report to. That's not our market. We're a legitimate advertising marketing industry that works B2B. It's that sometimes we're ashamed. I think that there's been a sense of shame and ambition to be something we're not. Whereas if we embrace who we are, we actually have stronger roots and connections that enable us to be successful.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff, man. I dig it. I dig it. So final question for you, buddy. What are some tips that you give other people, distributors, that for growing both personally and professionally? What are some tips that you have?
Some tips. First of all, always listen more than I speak. And that's a tip for myself.
Me too. Me too.
Because I can talk forever, unfortunately. You know what? Here's the thing. We know our industry, right? If you want new clients, the number one way to capture new business in our market is to double down on the service, the relationships you offer your existing.
Yeah.
Our business model is still a business model driven off of referrals.
Yeah.
That is the number one way our expansion and growth occurs. right? And so you want new business, double down on the focus in relationship to your existing buyers.
Yeah.
Right? Your existing buyers are literally your step towards anything additional that you want in this market. And that what makes you remarkable is literally that you are there, that you were accountable, and that your buyer has zero interest in losing access to the company credit card because of a $2,000 misprinted order of tote bags.
Right.
They need you. They need what you offer as security for themselves.
Yeah.
And so be what it is that you are, accountable and a partner to your business. Stay focused on your priorities. And in my view, the distributor's number one priority has to be the buyer. It has to, because inside of this business model, there is one inlet of revenue. And that is a buyer looking at a job that you've done, saying that they approve of it and paying for it. That is the only way dollar number one comes into this market. So you need to stay focused on your buyer. A true partner in your business is going to turn around and stay focused on you. And that's what I look at as being the balance in this industry.
Man, that's good stuff, Jeremy. I appreciate you taking the time today, and I'm excited about this new piece of content, Got Your Back. Again, this has been really fun, and we'll have to do it again. Okay.
No, it's anytime. And I sincerely appreciate everything that you're putting out into the market. I think that your content is brilliant. I follow it.
Thank you.
And I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to talk to you.
Thanks, buddy. I really appreciate it. And again, we will do it again. That's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.